Alright, so after the mess that was the movie, let's see how Insomniac handles things in a 10 months limit of development, Jesus Christ. So their task was very simple, trying to remake the first game but having to fit still somehow the plot of the movie. Let's see how they handle that off, shall we?
Ratchet and Clank.
So, again, funny enough, the game immediately wants to take a stance and say, you know about how Qwark basically got a pat on the back at the end of the movie? Nah, fuck that, he's in prison now.
Move it out, shit.
Also, what happened to the? I didn't like them, but what happened to those weird jokes below the map cards?
Sorry, there's not that. Anyway, this new original character, it's not important, it's just for the framing device. Kind of like an audience surrogate. He's there to meet a special cellmate. Jesus.
Wait, what's Zed doing here? Shouldn't he be working at Ratchet's workshop?
Shut up.
Greetings, new
Because,
fish.
yeah, this is sort of a pseudo-sequel to the
I
movie.
don't believe it.
You're about to
Get
hear
here.
that.
I used to dream of being arrested by you.
Now get out of here.
Wow, even
I
the
was talking to
criminals
you,
respect him.
Oh.
Yes, Captain.
So, new fish, I take it you followed my many adventures?
Of course I have. You're the most famous superhero in the galaxy.
He ain't famous anymore.
Words hurt.
Sorry to
Sorry,
reveal always loves to pull the
I'm a
party.
huge fan. I even pre-ordered the new Ratchet & Clank Holo game.
The what?
What?
You know, the game based on that incident with you and that Lombax.
Oh, you must mean the hollow film. Yeah, it's pretty good. If you like all CG.
No, I mean the
Okay,
game.
that one was
It's based on
clever.
the Holo film. Look, here's my confirmation email. I'm having it mag shipped to prison.
They're making a game based on a hollow film based on my life? But they haven't even consulted me. Oh,
Bummer.
this is my fault. I've been away from my adoring
So,
public in
yeah,
this
Quark's
forsaken
not too
place
happy to
too
hear
long.
that the movie is happening.
No one will ever
And the
hear
game
my
it's
side.
based on.
I'd like to hear your side, Captain.
You would?
So, let's have him
I mean, probably
try
more
to
entertaining
recount.
than the movie.
Yeah, let's see how
I'll tell
more
you a
entertaining
story.
it can be.
It all
Lives.
started with a hapless Lombax.
So how do you like this, folks? The plot device for the game is not actually the movie itself, but the movie through Quark's lens.
So, unfortunately, interspersed in between, there are actual clips from the movie. And unfortunately, this is one case where the people who made the movie are very, very protective. Like, I want to set this scenario. Remember, these are the early years of the PS4, where Sean Layden and Andrew House were on stage on conferences saying this new console is all about sharing on social media. Be open, showcase your gaming experiences everywhere you go. We want to connect you with the internet as much as possible. And here comes a fucking tie-in game that tells you, no, you cannot put it on YouTube because we're gonna block you in 60 different countries in the First World.
No leaving the garage until you help fix Mr. Micron's ship. Now get on that boat, Crank.
There are two things I have to ask. One, why would you even put those movie clips in? And two, just replicate them on the PS4. Like, we'll later see with Kingdom Hearts 3 that they can verbatim replicate movie scenes
Okay,
anymore.
the fact that they included the movie clips instead of recreating them is because of the 10-month, development. That I can believe. Yes,
Fair enough.
It is sad, but I can understand them cutting corners this way, and you'll be able to see because the in-game cutscenes that are done to recreate some dialogue within the character have very, very stiff animations, and you'll be able to see compared to how much more fluid the movie is like. So yeah,
I guess the
here's,
reason I'm a bit confused is that if I recall correctly, they only used the movie clips like twice throughout the game.
Oh no, they're all over the place, drove up. So anyway,
they probably were blended in.
because this was on the PS4, unfortunately, this was locked at 30 frames per second. It took until a bit, actually, not even on launch, on the lifespan of the PS5 for Insomniac to be like, why not? If you play this on the PS5, there is an extra patch that adds, the possibility of playing it at 60, which is definitely more fluid on that. Unfortunately, I've been told by Pedro, apparently, that if you try recording this using the PS5 capture recording device, the game just slaps a gigantic watermark in one of the corners. Classic.
Which sucks. Hey, Sony, why don't you release this on PC so that we can just, have a nice uncapped frame rate while
I'm
we're
sorry,
at it?
I'm sorry, Jova. Sony doesn't understand how to release things in order on PC. Don't you know?
Yeah, I do wonder if also part of that is that Sony were kind of embarrassed since, again, look, I'm not really spoiling the story by telling you that, shockingly, this game did not set the world on fire and was not enough to keep this continuity going. So basically, enjoy this continuity for the movie and the game.
Right from the get-go, you'll be able to notice a couple of things. While definitely we're trying to expand upon scenes from the movie in the sense of now Ratchet has to go to the training ground of the Galactic Rangers, they bothered to try this having as an excuse to recreate not all, but at least a part of the level design of Veldin from the original game. And that's basically what they did. For stuff that happens in the movie, they do try to find some excuse to instead put in the game equivalent that was in the original game and remake that. And for all the other planets that you were visiting in the original game, most of those, unfortunately some of them were cut away, are fully recreated one-to-one, as you'll be able to see, which was an easier job to do because the movie did not bother to visit them, like Novalis, Aridia, and so on.
Now, as you can imagine, unfortunately some compromises do have to be made, and the merges are a little bit clunky, but I don't blame Insomniac for that. I posit that more on like the executive mandates, which we've seesawed about how much certain titles have been executive mandated, but I can pretty much say with certainty that yes, it wasn't the executive mandates that this would need to reflect more so the movie rather than the games and whatnot. And as you can imagine, like with the movie, that's one of the big problems fans have with this game essentially. It's a reimagining of the first game, and a lot of people aren't really a fan of people already weren't really a fan of the movie, so a game expanding on the movie had an uphill battle.
The most positive thought that I heard about is that this was just a waste of time and effort that could have been spent somewhere else, like a new game, which I do agree.
Now, we might be in good hands because TJ Fixman apparently has the sole writing credit for this game, so again, maybe we'll get to see a glimpse of what he would have originally have done had, controlled the movie script not been rendered asunder from him and whatnot.
Yes and no, because ultimately this game still has to follow the plot of a movie, warts and all, so you'll be able to...
Well, okay. Wait, what happens to those other two gunshot wounds then?
Shut up. Yeah, you get to hear Qwark having to narrate the story. I did try to see it with if they do the whole thing of if you die and Qwark says, no, that's not how things went. But no, only occasion you get something similar remarking, say, oh, Ratchet could not handle the gravity of the situation if he falls in a bottomless pit, but that's it.
Okay. I'm guessing part of that again has to do with the fact that this game had to be rushed, because, I'll let you in on a little secret, audience, since, I guess to be fair, tie-in video games are a lot more rare these days, but one of the big shortcomings of tie-in games to movies, especially in the 2010s, was that they had to be rushed to match up with a theater release.
I think
ironically, sometimes
when we did the Aladdin video games.
And Ratchet, for some reason, kept smashing my robotic counterpart.
So it's something that bears repeating because, yes, it was a problem even in the earlier days, but in the earlier days, video game development wasn't as bad, so you could actually get decent games to tie in with that. Or there were some cases like Spider-Man 2, specifically the 2004 game, where, shock of all shocks, they were given the time that they needed, essentially.
Well, not the PC version, because that one is the one that has the awful pizza theme.
Oh, yeah. Weird, I thought you didn't like any of the pizza themes, but yeah, fair enough. Oh, Wow, you really can hit anyone in this game.
Just testing.
But yeah, no, like, I mean, again, there have been times where video game tie-ins to movies have been given their love and care and time to do. Then there are some times where they've been so rushed that, ironically, a video game that's supposed to be a sequel to a movie ends up coming out before the movie. Oops. What I'm getting at is here, it seems like Insomniac had one hell of an uphill battle with this game, essentially. It was based on a story fans already didn't like, and they had to rush it to high heaven, which, as we mentioned, was already a problem with some of the later games, like Into the Nexus or Q-Force, which just feel rushed absolutely. Which is just really great here. Like, hey, what do we do on our project that's meant to, you know, maybe simplify things, bring things back in a way that we can make a continuity that better fleshes and works things out? Let's do the same mistakes we did with those previous games and rush our development team on it. Genius.
So yeah, compared to the movie where they said in that Nefarious designed all the weapons, in here Gadgetron is still appearing because again they had to uphold what the original game said. But we do bother to implement the stuff that we did in the previous games, as in the weapons do level up, you know, by the more you use them, and you have to collect Raritanium in order to you know, upgrade them further using the hexagonal, you know, way.
Wait, what? Jesus!
And then Ratchet started bombing the audience. Gotta love that.
Dio, are you taking inspiration from Dwybs' Red Faction?
I'm literally just testing about the game's physics. I'm an artist at work. The world is my little oyster, my little tree to paint. Anyway, here's the new collectible for this game, Holo cards. You know that fucking, you know, card of Qwark that Ratchet had in the original game? They bothered to expand that by saying, yeah, let's have a set of cards, narrated by Big Al for some reason, that do oncoming sense and talk, they are basically more of a celebration of the franchise up until this point, because they showcase characters and weapons from all over the games released up until this point.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a collectible.
Right, now I remember what John Goodman's character is supposed to be called, Grimroth.
Wow, so already this game is doing a better job actually introducing us to the characters than the movie did.
I will showcase these in the extras part, so don't worry. There are plenty to check, and I argue the flavor text is fine. And if you collect a specific set, you do get bonuses, like extra damage to the Omni Wrench, or more currency that you get by killing enemies or smashing crates. So you're incentivized to do that, to get these.
So fun fact, actually, while I was more familiar with the original trilogy of Ratchet & Clank back in the day, because I never really got a PS3, I kind of missed a lot of the future series. This was my first Ratchet & Clank game that I played since the original trilogy, essentially, so while I was kind of a bit weirded out by this, I didn't have the baggage that a lot of fans did, you know, coming from the future series and whatnot, essentially, so now, having properly witnessed pretty much all the games that came after 3, essentially, I do definitely get why people would be testy with this. Like, again, you are replacing years upon years of continuity with, yes, what's supposed to be a fresher and more cleaner take, but still, you should treat very sensitively, especially if the idea is to essentially bring back that old continuity, but in a way that makes more sense. Except, again, they essentially took a sledgehammer to things and really changed things up, and part of me really does wonder what the overall plan was going to be if this actually was a success.
That's what everyone was pondering about. Were they gonna make something similar to this to go in Commando? How would the things evolve? And so on. But again, so far it hasn't happened because of a combination of you know, Rift Apart happening and Insomnia being swamped by the superhero stuff. We'll have to
no
see.
Kidding, it's been 4 years since Rift Apart came out.
We're supposedly about to get, here's another movie clip, we're about to get the Wolverine video game, so we'll have to see what Insomniac will decide to do, if they stick to that plan that the data theft showcased, or if we're gonna, you know, rearrange things.
Wow, Galactic Ranger trading is easy.
Yeah, very inconvenience.
Okay, so assuming that the Galactic Rangers are also in this game still, how are they going to account for the change in voice from these cutscenes to them in game?
They have sound alike, so again, that's it.
I guess as long as they're good enough sound alikes.
Again, it's just that the characters are not memorable in general, Drova. That's it.
Honestly, part of me wonders why they don't just do what some games do and at least dub over the cutscenes with the actual actors from the game.
I get the idea, Drova. They spent less time just slapping the scenes from the movie instead of having to work on them. Again, that includes also dubbing over them. But that didn't happen, obviously, for the non-English speaking language nations for Europe, including mine, because the game had to be entirely dubbed. And again, the good news is that compared to the movie, they did get in my country the voice actors.
So ironically, in that case, the foreign dubs kind of benefited from being foreign dubs in a way.
Basically, I didn't talk about it, but the one voice actor who did return for the movie in my country was, ironically enough, Ratchet, because it was basically a loophole. It was the voice actor who voiced the character for the first 3 games plus Size Matters, but then he migrated from Milan to Rome to start voicing live-action movies, like General Hux in the Star Wars sequels. But because the movie was dubbed in Rome, they were like, let's call you back. They did the same thing when Yu-Gi-Oh! The Yu-Gi-Oh! Dark Side of Dimensions OVA was released, so he got to reprise his role as Joy.
So basically, he started off relatively down on the level, but became a massive celebrity enough to be considered worthy of being in the movie.
Kinda, pretty much. Alright, now on to the...
They're zooming with the events of this movie, I see.
But just in order to expand a bit about this chase sequence, if you recall in the movie we just cut to Clank escaping. Now we get to have Clank actually bothering to escape away from Victor.
That is nice. What is a bit weird, though, is like... They just immediately introduced Drek kind of out of nowhere. Like, at least in the movie, we get a proper introduction. Here, this is like a cutscene as short
remember, this game assumes when you watch the movie.
Oh, joy, yes. Fun fact, I did not see the movie in theaters in the day, so, yeah. Like I mentioned, I had a bit of a weird experience playing this game.
Well, thankfully, this is the proper return of the Gadgetbots gameplay that was, a thing also in the original games. They were worked to be a bit more simple, but honestly, I still find it fine, and it has been sorely missing.
Well, I mean,
Now?
I've both played this game and saw the movie, and I remember enjoying the game decently enough.
Again, compared to the movie, it's a much better experience to have, but the middle ground, like he said, is that, the time and effort from the company was overall wasted.
I will say this, like, most of the game's problems do have to do with the movie it's tying into. Like, the game is definitely doing its best to, well, make the best of a rather iffy situation. Also, Crash Bandicoot chase sequence, I love it. That's Victor's kinda slow. Goddamn.
To be fair, again, the movie bothered to tell that it's a slow, but that's an older model.
Wait a minute, is this a Stallone character?
Yes, but he's voiced by someone else for the gameplay sections.
Warbot to warbot.
Let me just get onto behind the voice actors to have a look.
And at the very least, since early the movie bothers to establish that he's afraid of water, which will be incorporated for later.
Oh, this is interesting. Apparently some of the actors from the movies did return?
I already said the job.
Wait, hold on.
It's for the sake. It's because they're counting when the movie clips are used. They just use the original movies dubbed.
What seems to be the problem, Victor?
You won't get away from me, Chairman. I've got him right where I want him.
Anyway, let's see. Victor. Yeah, Victor is played by Mark Silverman in this version. He has been in stuff like The Quarry, Huevos Little Rooster's Excellent Adventure.
If you
Oh, he was in the Watchmen video game in 2009.
Yeah, but the
And
Quarry,
he-
for those who don't know, is the game that not Supergiant, the people who made Until Dawn did for 2K to try to recreate their old glory.
He was the king in Howl's Moving Castle. Okay, he went from Studio Ghibli to the Robots
Well,
short.
I think it was a case, Jova, where it was the redub of it, like a recent one, the Disney one, I think.
Oh god. Okay. He's listed as being in the 2005 movie, so I don't recall if like that was ever around the time of a Disney redub or whatnot.
I don't
He did
know
the sound of-
a lot of the details because, as mentioned in the past, I don't particularly bother to watch the Ghibli movies till an English dub.
He did the sound alike for Rod Serling on the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror ride at Disney World Hollywood Studios. And he was also in Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. He played King Jill and
Yeah,
Niga in that
definitely
one.
more of a case where it was slightly stapled for the Disney dubs of the Studio Ghibli movies, when they bother to actually give more accurate stuff.
So he's got like 15 major credits, a good chunk of them
There you
Studio
go.
Ghibli. He was
That's how Clank got there in the movie, just, a bit of in between.
I like it. It also does help, build up on Victor's grudge against Clank as well, whereas, I don't know, in the movie it felt a little out of nowhere. Well, not completely out of
Oversimplified.
nowhere, just, oversimplified. Eh.
Remember another movie clip. So
Mhm.
yeah, we also cut away the whole scene. Again, John Goodman's character is barely present in this game. Insomniac clearly did not like him, or TJ Fixman. I don't blame him.
I guess it also helps them cut down on the obvious point that he has two different voice actors as well. So
Not just that,
two birds
like
with
he
one
said, his
stone.
scenes are so pointless because he's just there to say very obvious stuff like, Ratchet, you have so much potential, but you don't need to rush things out. Stuff like that.
So, how does it feel, Tio, knowing that the better version of the movie's story is the version told by Qwark, a notorious liar?
I think that's pretty much says it all about the quality overall of the product.
Yep. Also, yeah, you're right. It is definitely a lot more obvious with how stiff the cutscenes in the PS4 can be compared to the movie
Like,
ones.
they did a good job
I guess to be
recreating the models to be close enough to how they look in the movie, but the animation had to suffer as a result. The PS4 was a huge technological leap, in what they did, but a lot of developers got themselves too rushed up by enthusiasm.
If I recall correctly, I think it did have it to also do with it being like, okay, it wasn't necessarily the PS4's infancy since the PS4 had released in like 2013 or 2014, depending on where you live. But if I recall correctly, I don't think the PS4 truly hit its ultimate stride in animation until, say, around 2018, I'd say.
2017, well, this was around the time, between 2016 and 2018. Remember, this was the time where Horizon Zero Dawn was released.
And here's one thing I recall the game doing a lot better than the movie. Ratchet and Clank actually being together
Not
for a
just
good
that,
chunk of it.
it's a scene that we talked over it. Oops. It's a scene that we talked over it, but in the movie, the one major time where the first one of the few scenes where Clank is on the back of Ratchet, they bother to do the lampshading joke of saying, I don't think this configuration is really optimal, as in, see guys, Clank being the backpack of Ratchet is so silly.
But even though it's actually practical that way. I mean, the only thing that's maybe a bit weird is
It's almost
we've
like
never
Kevin
really
Moreau
established how.
he was not knowing what he was talking about when rewriting the movie.
Again,
Remember to that bit earlier. Remember in Ratchet and Clank, where as soon as the title characters met each other, they fell to their deaths.
Of course.
I mean, look, it's a version of a story that the government doesn't want you to know.
I'm surprised it's not like the King's Quest reboot, where when the character when he dies, he's telling the story, and okay, that didn't happen. I'm surprised Qwark doesn't say, and then Ratchet and Clank fell to their deaths. Wait, no, they didn't.
I'm gonna guess that if this game weren't rushed, they probably would have added that more in.
Again, it's also a bit of a shame because, as I said, this is the last hurrah for Jim Ward as Qwark before his health problems kicked in. So,
well, if you don't count that short.
Yeah, Life of Pi, sure, whatever. The good news is that compared to the movie, we get to actually fight the Blargs on foot like in the original game, and this allows them to have a bit more of a personality expanded rather than the movie, which was just summed up as Lemao texting.
Okay.
Ratchet had to think fast.
You know, when it comes to this, it really does feel like, okay, maybe not entirely night and day, but it really is astounding how much, at least more competent the project feels as a game. Not just because they're allowed to, flesh out more scenes and characters and whatnot, but, because it feels like it's actually trying to be Ratchet and Clank. I kind of touched base a bit on this while we commentated on the movie, but the movie adaptation fell into a trapping that a lot of video game movie adaptations fall into, not really wanting to actually be like the source material, since, I'm sorry, that didn't feel like so much Ratchet & Clank the movie so much as it felt like Star Wars wannabe. Like, right down to, again, Ratchet not even wanting to take Qwark to task after he realizes he's a traitor, he just goes, well, I'm sad, and goes back to Veldin, not even telling anyone that Qwark's a traitor.
Drop ship of death.
Yes, it is very, very scary.
I wonder who trademarked that patent.
Well, Sherman Drake could, admittedly.
You have to wonder if ever there's gonna be a court of affairs that, whenever they see a patent for, like, a machine of doom, they're gonna go, yeah, you know what, we're going to ixnay that and not let you make that.
Well, to be honest, Jova, it's this universe you're talking about. They absolutely are patenting that.
True, yeah, there's too much money to make off of it for them to call it quits.
There you go, Insomniac. You're happy now? I had to jump around like a fucking monkey.
Although, yeah, that was another thing that was missing from the movie, which, okay, to be fair, the whole messages on capitalism kinda hadn't really been a thing since Deadlock, so...
The closest we got was, again, how media was very quickly to, attached to Ratchet and don't give a shit about Qwark, and how Qwark's evil, quote-unquote, stemmed as a result from that rather than just being a jerk. Like, and you can say, a victim of systematized, media mindsets.
Like, I want to make one thing clear. My problems with the 2016 project aren't that it was not a complete one-to-one retelling of what happened in the original, since in some ways that would kind of defeat the purpose of the project, to retell or reimagine the stories, but in a way that, better suited continuity, and I guess made it so that some things didn't feel like they came out of nowhere, essentially. So I can get that some changes were going to be made. But like I said, with the last Airbender movie, they need to be changes that make sense, and sadly a lot of them were not.
Speaking of which, compared to the original 2002 game, we actually get to fight Sherman Drake's, built robot, while in the original they were just there for the stealth section at the end. So that's actually
this kind of... I know we gotta follow the movie's plot, but this kind of begs the question on why the heck Ratchet and Clank didn't immediately hightail it off to the High Galactic Society as soon as they realized, oh crap, there's people out here to kill us. Like, in the movie, they had moments of silence because they never got attacked on Veldin. Here,
to be
though,
fair, it's basically the scene of Ratchet rescuing Clank and getting back to the garage. Right after that, they will the cars.
Oh, okay, kudos then. Weird, I could have sworn that in the game they do still have the movie cutscene where they chillax for a bit, but no, if it's immediately them going...
That's because Clank has to be fixed first. Remember, he has his leg joint broken.
Ratchet, what in Sony's name just exploded?
Sorry about that, Grim. Listen.
Okay, and to their credit, they even do have... I'm sorry, I gotta mainly call him John Goodman. Grimroth. I think that's his name,
yes,
Grimroth. Yeah, they do actually have Grimroth even acknowledging what's going on. So, okay, fair beans. I misremembered that bit then.
Once they were safe, Clank explained Drek's plan to attack the Hall of Heroes.
Okay, here I see that they're having basically Qwark voice over this cutscene, which helps it flow better as opposed to this and that.
I didn't talk about this when we did the movie. This is possibly the one main trace of Ratchet's jerkassery from the original game. The idea of him lying to Clank in order to get to the Galactic Ranger, but this is never reprised upon. Clank is just treated like an idiot just because he was literally born on the same day. Alright, compared to the movie where we just go straight to quote-unquote Aleero City. Now instead we remember, hey, we actually have a plot of a game, so we will have a contrived coincidence that will lead us to the beats where the original game went, starting with Novalis.
Don't worry. The computer would have told us if we were in any real danger.
Fatal crash imminent. Would you like to record your last will and testament?
Admittedly, that's not super promising.
Yes, well,
and Ratchet and Clank died.
And so the voice of lightning told them to give their last will and testament, and then they all died.
So join us in the next part where we do something shockingly bold that the movie dared not to do. We actually get to visit Novalis. Wow. See ya.
My goodness.